বললেই তো হবে না? Dear student, good morning. Hope you are sound and safe. I am Dr. Bornali Sinha, Associate Professor of Obs and Gynae, JRRMCH. Today I delivered a lecture on polyhydramnios. But before going to our main topics, we should have adequate knowledge about the source and circulation of the amniotic fluid for the better understanding of the amniotic fluid disorder, like polyhydramnios and the oligohydramnios. In amniotic fluid, it is usually clear in color. It surrounds the unborn baby during pregnancy, and it is contained in a amniotic sac like closed sac. And it is isosmolar to the maternal and the fetal plasma. The main function of the amniotic fluid is nourishment and protect the fetus in intrauterine life. Here we see the picture of amniotic fluid, and it is contained in a closed amniotic sac. What is the amniotic fluid index? The amniotic fluid index is the sum of the amniotic fluid in the largest pocket in each quadrant. The amniotic fluid is not static throughout the pregnancy. The amount can be vary at different gestational age. Like in 10 weeks of pregnancy, it is about 30 ml. In 20 weeks, it is 250 ml. And from 30 to 40 weeks, it is about 500 to 1500 ml of amniotic fluid. Then, gradually the amniotic fluid is declined after 40 weeks of the gestation. And it is peak, the amniotic fluid is peak at the 36 to 38 weeks of gestation. In normal pregnancy, if the amniotic fluid index is more than the 95th percentile, it is labeled as a polyhydramnios. And when the amniotic fluid index is less than 5th percentile, it is called oligohydramnios. Between the 5th and the 95th percentile, it is quite normal for the gestational age. This is the diagrammatic picture of the circulation of the amniotic fluid. Here we see the source of the amniotic fluid from the mother and the fetus. First and the early second trimester, the source of the amniotic fluid volume from transudation of the maternal plasma through the placenta and transudation of the fetal plasma through the fetal skin and the umbilical cord. But it can be occur before the 20 weeks of the gestation. After 20 weeks, the fetal skin is keratinized. That's why it is impermeable to the fetal plasma. From 20 weeks to term, the main source of amniotic fluid from the fetal urine. At term, the fetal kidney secrete 600 to 700 ml of urine per day into the amniotic fluid. Fetal respiratory tract secrete 250 ml per day into the amniotic fluid. And some of the fluid transfer through the placenta by transmembranal pathway. And some of the secretion from the fetal oronasal cavity. All of these are the production of the amniotic fluid. But this kind of production is controlled by fetal swallowing a term. It removes the 500 ml per day from the amniotic cavity. Some amount of amniotic fluid is absorbed through the transmembranous pathway into the placenta. If there is any imbalance occur between the production and the absorption of the amniotic fluid, in that case, it may develop the polyhydramnios or oligohydramnios. If the production is more and the absorption rate is less, in that case, polyhydramnios is developed. This is the picture. We see that fetal urine, it is the main source of amniotic fluid at term, and another source of production from the secretion from the respiratory tract and oral perinasal secretion. And this is the transmembranal exchange through the cord and absorption by the fetal swallowing. Now come to our main topics, polyhydramnios. Polyhydramnios have three definitions. One is anatomical, sonographical, and the clinical. In sonographic definition, it is the excessive amount of LICA-ME is 2000 ml or more, or if the amniotic fluid index is more than 25 centimeter, or the single vertical pocket pool of more than 8 centimeter. But sometimes you can get the three picture at a time. The clinical definition, it is more important for you in your Viva and the SAQ exam. Clinical definition is the excessive amount of LICA-ME causes discomfort to the patient and or when an imaging technique is needed to confirm the clinical diagnosis of the lie and the presentation. The incidence of the polyhydramnios vary from 0.5 to 1%, and 50 to 60% are idiopathic, that is cause unknown, and 10 to 20% of the neonate has congenital abnormalities, and out of them 10 to 20%, 40% have gastrointestinal system abnormalities, 20% central nervous system, 22% cardiovascular system, and the 13% have genitourinary system. The types of the polyhydramnios depends on the rapidity of the onset of symptom. It can be categorized as acute polyhydramnios and the chronic polyhydramnios. Acute polyhydramnios is usually very rare and it occurs at 16 to 20 weeks of gestation, and the onset is sudden, usually take 3 to 4 days, and commonly associated with the monozygotic twin. And most of the patients present with severe abdominal pain. Chronic polyhydramnios, you commonly get this kind of patient in our ward or OPD. It is usually most common and gradually onset after the 30 weeks of the pregnancy. The causes of the polyhydramnios are categorized into fetal cause, maternal cause, and the placental cause. In fetal cause, most of the causes are due to the chromosomal or structural abnormalities. The first one is anencephaly. In anencephaly, it is developed due to deficient of the form development of the skull, vault of the skull and the brain tissue. That's why the meninges and brain tissue are exposed. In anencephaly, but the face of the anencephaly baby looks quite normal. In anencephaly baby, polyhydramnions develop due to the transudation from the exposed meninges and the absence of the fetal swallowing reflex. And third cause is suppression of the fetal antidiuretic hormone. Because in anencephaly baby, the pituitary gland is absent or hypoplastic. So if the suppression of fetal antidiuretic hormone, the fetus causes polyuria and ultimately aided the amniotic fluid in the amniotic sac. In open spina bifida, polyhydramnions developed from the transudation from the meninges. Anencephaly and the open spina bifida both are the neural tube defect. It can be prevented by only giving a folic acid 4 mg from the pre-pregnant state, and it should be continued up to the 12 weeks of the gestation. And it reduces the neural tube defect by 85%. Third cause is cleft lip and the cleft palate. Fourth is esophageal and the duodenal atresia. Both these conditions causes interfering the normal swallowing of the amniotic fluid. This is the chromosomal abnormalities, aneuploidy. It also causes polyhydramnions. Triple TS, that means twin transfusion syndrome. In the normal monozygotic twin, in twin transfusion syndrome, it is only occurred in the monozygotic twin, not in the dizygotic twin. In monozygotic twin, there is a single placenta, and both of the fetus sharing their all nutrition and the oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange through the single placenta. If the one fetus is affected, in that case, the second fetus may be a chance of affection. That's why the second twin is more affected than the first one. How the maternal cause? Maternal cause is mainly due to the diabetes mellitus, Rh negative mother with isoimmunization, and the cardiac or renal cause. In diabetes mellitus, the maternal blood glucose level is high, and this high level of blood glucose is by the facilitated diffusion enter into the fetal blood. Then the fetal blood glucose level is high, and which causes fetal polyuria and ultimately develop the polyhydramnions. And in Rh negative mother, only Rh negative mother does not develop the polyhydramnions. When the Rh negative mother complicated with the isoimmunization, in that case, polyhydramnions develop. If the mother have cardiac or renal disease, in that case, placenta is bigger in size. That means edema of the placenta, which causes increase the transmembranous pathway of the polyhydramnions. Now, last cause is placental causes. Chorioangioma. It is the one type of placental tumor which is arise from the single chorionic villus, which causes hyperplasia of the blood vessel and the connective tissue. That's why the placenta is quite bigger than the normal placenta. This is the normal placenta. This is the placenta containing chorioangioma. Here the blood vessel is bigger in size and the placental size is also bigger than the normal. Now, how the patient comes with polyhydramnios. Usually patient comes with the polyhydramnios are abdominal discomfort and pain. Some of the patient have pressure symptoms like dyspnea, palpitation, indigestion, edema and varicosities of the lower limb. Some of the patient have decreased perception of the fetal movement. That means less fetal movement. If we examine the patient, general examination, there may be a evidence of preeclampsia. On abdominal examination, in inspection over distension of the abdomen and the tense, shiny skin. And stria of the abdomen is more marked. And on palpation, the fundal height is more than the gestational age, and the fetal parts are very difficult to felt, and fetal heart sound are not clearly audible. And most of the cases have malpresentation and the non-engagement of the fetal head. Here we have some viva question. What are the common causes of height of the uterus is the more than the gestational age? One is polyhydramnios, then multiple pregnancy, macrosomic baby, and the pregnancy with fibroid uterus or pregnancy with the ovarian tumor. Per vaginal examination or bimanual examination, precaution should be taken and the examination should be gentle because there may be a chance of premature rupture of the membrane. Or PB examination, the positive findings may be taking above the cervix, that is, the effacement, partial effacement of the cervix. Sometimes we found the dilatation of the cervix through which the bulge membranes are felt. Investigation. Some of the investigation are done to sort out the cause of the polyhydramnios. Some are doing for the confirmation of the diagnosis. In blood, we do the ABO and RH grouping because everybody knows the RH negative mother with isoimmunization causes polyhydramnios. And the diabetic mother also developed the polyhydramnios. Routinely, we done the random blood sugar. Oral glucose tolerance test is not routinely done, but when the random blood sugar is more than the normal range or the patient have history of diabetes, a previous gestational age, a gestational diabetes mellitus or the history of macrosomic baby or family history of diabetes. In that case, we do the OGTT. The estimation of the alpha-fetoprotein level in early pregnancy is most important for the diagnosis of the neural tube defect, that is, anencephaly and the spina bifida, and it is very high in level. The ultrasonography is done for the detection of the abnormally large echo-free space between the fetus and the uterine wall. An amniotic fluid index more than the 25 centimeter to exclude the multiple pregnancy. To diagnose the any fetal congenital malformation and to confirm the lie and the presentation. The amniotic fluid index measurement is quantitative method of amniotic fluid by the ultrasonography. The amniotic fluid index is the more sensitive indicator of the amniotic fluid volume throughout the pregnancy. That's why we measure the amniotic fluid index. Here the abdomen is divided into 4 quadrants by a 2 imaginary line. First line is extend from the symphysis pubis to the diphisternum through the umbilicus. And second one is a transverse line through the umbilicus. And the whole of the abdomen is divided into 4 quadrants. And the sum of the amniotic fluid in 4 quadrants is amniotic fluid index. Is the polyhydramnios is preventable? No, the 100% is not preventable, but we can prevent the some extent if we detect the diabetes mellitus in early and the control of diabetes mellitus before the pre-pregnant and the pregnant state with insulin. RH isoimmunization is now preventable by giving the anti-D. The dose of the anti-D is 2 in number. First one is given in antenatal period from 20 weeks to 34 weeks. The second dose is given after delivery within 72 hours, preferably within the first 24 hours. Genetic counseling in early pregnancy and the detection of the fetal congenital anomalies with ultrasonography and their medical termination. Management depends on the condition of the fetus and the condition of the mother, and the causes and the degree of polyhydramnios. Stage of the pregnancy, that means first trimester, second trimester, and the third trimester. Whether the fetus is compatible with the extrauterine life. In case of minor degree polyhydramnios, usually no treatment is needed and patient can be treated at her home with the some supportive treatment like bed rest, water and salt restricted diet, though it is not very much effective. And in severe case, hospitalization must be done. And when we hospitalize the patient, if the patient have history of dyspnea, abdominal pain or difficult ambulation, in that case, patient should be labeled as a high-risk pregnancy, and there is an increased chance of perinatal morbidity and mortality. That's why patient should be shifted in a tertiary hospital where the NICU and the blood transfusion and the cesarean section facilities are available. There are some conservative therapy. One is indomethacin therapy. We can use the indomethacin to reduce the polyhydramnios. The indomethacin is acted by impairing the lung fluid production and enhances the absorption rate, or it decreases the fluid volume across the fetal membrane. But it has some complications like it causes premature closure of the patent ductus arteriosus and it impairs the fetal kidney function and cerebral vasoconstriction. So, indomethacin should not be given after the 35 weeks of the gestation. And indomethacin can be given orally or parectally. We preferably use oral form. 25 mg indomethacin per orally, 6 hourly. Second conservative management is amniocentesis. Amniocentesis is only done to relieve the maternal distress and for the fetal lung maturation test. This is the picture showing the amniocentesis procedure with the guidance of the ultrasound. Ultrasound probe localize the placenta. Then, with the help of the 18 gauge or spinocerebellar needle, we drain the amniotic fluid slowly because slow decompression is very much mandatory in case of amniocentesis. 500 ml per hour is normal, but we can do 1000 to 1500 ml is enough adequate. But in amniocentesis, there is some minimal complications like abruptio placenta, premature rupture of the membrane, premature labor, and chorioamnionitis. Now come to the obstetrical management. In obstetrical management, if there is any fetal abnormalities, chromosomal or major structural abnormalities, in that case, delivery of the fetus irrespective of the gestational age. If the pregnancy is less than 37 weeks, amnio reduction is attempted with the hope of the continuation of pregnancy up to the term. At term or beyond the 37 weeks, induction of the labor is done with oxytocin infusion. Then labor is augmented by the low rupture of the membrane. In polyhydramnios, artificial rupture of the membrane is very much efficient because it reduces the maternal distress along with the augmentation of the labor. But before inducing the any labor, any male presentation should be checked. While rupturing the membrane, hand should be kept in the cervix to prevent the cord prolapse and to prevent the accidental hemorrhage. That means slow decompression of the amniotic fluid is very much important things in case of artificial rupture of the membrane. There may be increased chance of to develop the postpartum hemorrhage in third stage of the labor because uterus is hugely distended. So that before termination, at least 1 unit blood should be kept in hand and the baby should be carefully examined after the delivery to exclude any congenital anomalies. The complications of the polyhydramnios are during pregnancy, preterm labor, preeclampsia, fetal malpresentation, the premature rupture of membrane, and the accidental hemorrhage. The accidental hemorrhage is mainly occurred during the rupture of membrane or artificial rupture of membrane. During labor, early rupture of membrane and the cord prolapse and increased operative delivery. The operative delivery is increased due to the malpresentation or other maternal comorbidity. During puerperia, uterine inertia, that means atonicity of the uterus, because uterus is hugely distended and the surface area of the uterine cavity is also large. That's why uterus takes some time to contract the uterine wall. As uterine inertia, there is a retained placenta, ultimately which causes PPH and shock. In late puerperia, patient present with some involution and the increased perinatal mortality. In polyhydramnios patient, perinatal mortality is quite high, mainly due to the congenital abnormalities of the fetus and the prematurity. Oligohydramnios, it is usually small topics. The definition of the oligohydramnios, it is defined as reduced amniotic fluid volume less than the 200 ml at term or amniotic fluid index less than the 5 centimeter from 28 to 40 weeks of the gestation. The maternal causes are preeclampsia and the postdated pregnancy. The preeclampsia and postdated pregnancy which causes placental insufficiency. That's why reduce the transmembranous pathway of amniotic fluid production. Ultimately developed oligohydramnios. Some of the fetal chromosomal or structural abnormalities and the fetal renal agenesis or obstructive uropathy which causes decreased urine output of the fetus or history of premature rupture of the membrane which causes pervaginal watery discharge. And drug history are prostaglandins inhibitor and ACE inhibitor. Both of these drugs causes oligohydramnios. And another cause is post-maturity, IUGR, and the idiopathy. The diagnosis of the oligohydramnios comes from the symptoms and sign. In symptoms, usually patients have no specific history. Some patients have history of leaking membrane and the preeclampsia and history of post-term, drug history and the less fetal movement. If we examine the patient, the uterus is small for the date. Uterus in palpation, uterus is feels full of fetus and presence of male presentation and the evidence of IUGR. Diagnosis is only made by the ultrasonography. To estimate the amniotic fluid index, if the amniotic fluid index is less than 10, it is labeled as a reduced amniotic fluid. If the amniotic fluid index is less than 5, it is called oligohydramnios. Management of the oligohydramnios. In presence of any fetal congenital malformations, need delivery irrespective of the gestational age. In case of severe oligohydramnios, deliver the baby by cesarean section. In case of post-term, deliver the fetus immediately. In case of preterm or mild oligohydramnios, there may be an option for the conservative treatment. In conservative treatment, we usually give the patient adequate hydration should be maintained. It can be given either orally or IV infusion 1 liter to 2 liter per day. An injection steroid should be given to mature the lung, fetal lung maturation. And during delivery, close monitoring of the labor by external fetal monitoring is needed because in oligohydramnios, there may be a chance of development of the fetal distress during labor. Rupture of the membrane is done in the active phase of the labor. Amnio infusion is done in case of meconium staining lichen. Amnioinfusion is done to dilute the meconium stain and to prevent the cord compression. If the fetal heart sound is abnormal during labor, immediate cesarean section should be done to save the fetus. Now, at the end of our class, stay home, stay safe. Thank you. বন্ধ করে দাও। স্টপ করে দে, ডিলিট করে দিতাম।